I took an x100v to Sydney for a week, a couple of weeks ago. So naturally I have a few things to say about Sydney, which is completely packed full of Camrys. Everywhere you go, there's bitumen, concrete, danger, sound. It feels a little bit strange, and I kind of wonder, how did we get to this point where our cities are covered in hard material? Because there's grass. Once you get out of your car and start walking around, it is a pretty beautiful place. There's some beautiful trees, light, pretty interesting buildings, and lots of people walking around. It's incredibly busy. And on the way down from Brisbane, I flew with a window seat. Before I hopped on the plane, I had a look through the film emulations, and I didn't like a lot of them, but I did like the Cine one because it was kind of simple and looked more natural than the rest. They generally tend to have a bit of a dirty feel, which I don't like. Over the past couple of years, I've fallen in love with this repetition photography style, like this tennis table book. I did it with the view, I did it with the chair, the other view, and the book. It was nice to be able to do it with the plane wing, and I think it's a classic, but this little section here sort of gives me hope. Like, it was so beautiful to watch the shadow move across the wing. This photo as well, unbelievably pretty, and love this photo. It makes me a little nervous because it's a bit cliche, but, well, it's pretty cliche. It's out of plane window, but I love it because I've never done that before with this camera, so it's fun. The room I was in was pretty scary, and just like the Fujifilm emulations, kind of moldy. The building itself and the hotel was interesting in a kind of liminal way, though. And I met this guy he used to be a private pilot in England, and he now has Tourette's and he travels the world, I guess. He'd been in Sydney for a few months, but he had a beautiful blue shirt on, and he looked really nice in the light, and he looked so interesting. The way he moved and the way he talked was very interesting. I didn't ask for his photo, but that's okay. And I think that I'm not super interested in taking random people's photos just because I like the way they look. I'm okay with just looking at them, but it's hard for me to ask to take a portrait. I think I need to be very close to the person because it's a very intimate thing to do, at least the way that I like to do it. And I don't want to be doing that with everybody. In the beginning, the camera did not feel good to use. It has a cheap and loose feel, and you can't really access the shutter speed like it's done, which is very annoying. It's also not a one-to-one experience to film because the manual focus is super bad and annoying by wire and digital feeling. The ISO dial is nice, but I would 100% prefer focus marks and hard stops so I can make settings before I bring the camera up to my eye. Also, just for something to play with when I'm walking around, because currently the only thing to play with is the aperture ring, and that changes my exposure, which is so annoying to me. Obviously, I just had to use autofocus though, which is fine. Just not as fun, and it means you never miss focus by like 2 centimeters or 1 centimeter, which you do with manual focus, which is where a lot of emotion and interest comes from for me. Oh, I did get one close-up portrait of Zach right before I left while he was emptying his garage. He's a funny guy, and I like taking photos of funny guys, so I think it's a good photo. Suits him. Looking through some of the photos of Sydney itself, I had a great time photographing the floor, and specifically looking for faces within the floor, which there are many in Sydney, like this panda and this other face as well. I enjoyed photographing the trees, and when I walked through the city once, I made this photo of a taxi driver and a bunch of Camrys, which describes Sydney for me. It even says Sydney in the back of the photo. I like this one, and actually it brings up an important point, that this camera, the files, the JPEGs, they actually look nicer if you underexpose or overexpose and then bring it back. So for example, this photo was like 2-3 stops underexposed, and because I had to bring it up, it brings out all the interesting things going on with the sensor as it like fails, which is pretty cool. Also, this photo of me walking along was incredibly overexposed, and as you bring it down, you get this weird green tinge in the front end, like the top. I think that's pretty beautiful and actually kind of film-like. That's the one thing that I would say that this camera does do with its JPEGs that other cameras maybe aren't as good at. The things that go wrong are actually beautiful. Not having in-body stabilization is a definite sadness, and a huge bonus for the 6. This photo would never have been shaky with in-body stabilization, and just wouldn't have taken so long to get. I mean, there are benefits to that as well, but I like in-body stabilization. It helps.
because some of the best light is after the sun goes down, like between sunset and like darkness. So you need some kind of stabilization for that on a digital camera, because I'm not going to walk around with a tripod. And now a minute to appreciate Lakshan's beautiful book, Off Season. It's a successful book in my eyes for a few reasons. Firstly, it's handmade and alive. It has this fragile feeling, and every time you look through the book, you feel like you're breaking it more and more, which for a photo book is kind of interesting. It's a very entertaining book as well. Every time you flip the page, there's something happening. You never get locked into some kind of like monotonous rhythm. It's constantly surprising. Lakshan took these photos while he was living in a place where there's all these dogs. I don't know the details, but beautiful photos of dogs in here doing all dog things, which is also incredible to look at. He was obviously very patient when he's making these photos, and it's nice to read a photo book of somebody who clearly looks. There you go, feels good, looks good, a lot of fun. That's about it for Sydney. Had a great week. Made a cool video while I was there for work. I think I prefer my phone for this sort of thing. I don't know. It's cool to have a camera on you at all times, but I don't think this is the one. I think I understand why a Leica makes sense. Yeah, I think I understand why a Leica makes sense. I would like to have one, but maybe I don't have one. But I would like to. This is fine. This camera's good. That's it. Goodbye. Thanks for watching, and I will